Good evening, everyone. John Malanca here with my co-host, Natasha Trenev, the mother of probiotics and the founder of Natren Precision Probiotics. Always great to see you, Natasha.
Thank you. And we'll be talking about some very important issues today, which I've been talking about for the last 40 years and unfortunately not getting better.
Well, that's what we're covering them. So the topic today is unraveling resistance, how antibiotics are tied to cancer and other diseases. And so, as we all know, antibiotics are critical when treating bacteria infections, but it can link to other conditions that we do see on a regular basis. One, disruption of gut microbiome, which Natasha is an expert in, and antibiotics. Too much antibiotics or too many antibiotics kill beneficial bacteria. So we'll go over that. So they're killing the beneficial bacteria ones along with the harmful ones, which can lead to an imbalance of gut microbiome. Increased inflammation, which we hear every day quite a bit, again, working with the gut. Developed antibiotic resistant bacteria, and overuse of antibiotics can lead to the antibiotic resistance bacteria, which again, Natasha will speak on today. Impacts the immune function, altered metabolism, as well as toxins, increased risk of obesity. People don't realize that. And with that, the domino effect, what I always share about, can lead to other things, certain risk factors, including something as severe as cancer, which we'll talk about, as well as potential DNA damage. Again, everything linking back to the gut and what's happening with the healthy gut versus an unhealthy gut. So, Natasha, please take it away, and thank you for allowing me to do that introduction as always.
Good. Well, look, antibiotics have been in our society for well over since the World War II, since the 1940s. And they are a miracle drug. The problem has been that we are using them indiscriminately, and we are forcing bacteria to evolve to evade these antibiotics, which are killers. So what do the bacteria do to evade these antibiotics? They literally line up next to each other and pass them a chip called the plasmid, and they teach other groups of bacteria how to resist that antibiotic. So we're getting to the point where even vancomycin, there's resistance by staph and other bacteria to vancomycin. And that means, when a person gets to the hospital, God forbid, they're given the best antibiotics we have and they can't survive. And this is what's troubling me, because people are not aware that antibiotics are everywhere in our life. They're usually pesticides like glyphosate, which is Roundup. It was first patented as a potent antibiotic. Antibiotics are used indiscriminately in our cattle, and they were used because we found that giving cattle antibiotics prophylactically, meaning every day, it made the cattle gain weight and a lot of water weight. And of course, the farmer sells the cow based on weight, not on beauty. And so I believe that, and there's multiple articles written about this, that the overuse of antibiotics has killed the microbiome, which leads to problems like overweight and ultimately leads to cancer. The destruction of the microbiome is linked to multiple cancers, and that microbiome has an intimate relationship with our immune cells, which line the 27 feet of our GI tract, and they actually communicate. So these bacteria communicate with the immune system, some to help it, others to bring it down and enter the body and take advantage of the host. So I'm going to keep it relatively simple. And the fact is that at the rate we're going, we're going to have millions of people die in the next 20, 25 years because they're going to have diseases that no antibiotic can touch, while we're, still using this indiscriminately and not really understanding the function of our microbiome. People throw out the word microbiome, microbiota, leaky gut, but I think very few have an in-depth understanding actually what's going on.
Yeah. The term antibiotic, and I remember having a nice conversation with your husband, Jordan. Mm-hmm. Antibiotic, probiotic. Okay. And when you really look at it at that level, it really makes sense. It really makes sense what it's doing with the gut. And so let's talk about how it can lead to other ailments. I know the topic today is how antibiotics are tied to cancer and disease. You didn't mention that. but the cancer numbers are increasing every single day. Cancer does not discriminate, and so can you share the true benefits of? You talk about cows being a prophylactic. That's the right term? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, antibiotic use in cows and other animals is causing them to gain weight, and it's also happening to us who get these antibiotics in a second fashion through our meat, through our vegetables. The pesticides sprayed on vegetables are also antibiotics. So we think just because we're vegan, we're not getting in these residual forms of antibiotics, but we are. And sometimes even the organic foods, unless you really check, are not necessarily clear of all those antimicrobial compounds that we use to grow vegetables and fruits. And it's a big concern for me because, look, each immune cell has to deal with 200,000 microbes, 200,000 microbes. And since, the microbes that are beneficial for us, they become the eyes and the ears of the immune system. And destroying the beneficial ones now hampers the immune system, where it can't deal with each cell of the immune system cannot deal with 200,000 microbes that try to attack the body. And what happens, they start attacking the lining of the intestinal wall. They break it open. When they break open the intestinal wall, we have a nice term called leaky gut, which people really don't understand what's going on with the leaky gut. And then stuff leaks into our bloodstream that shouldn't leak in there. And then we get something called a low-grade inflammation. And inflammation is one of the hallmarks of cancers. So when your body has a disruption where there's not a balance between the microbes in your gut, the immune cells, and there's a breakdown of the intestinal wall, your body cannot replace efficiently the 3,500,000 cells that we lose every minute. The body has to be able to produce healthy, what I call good cells, not cheap cells, of proteins that make these new cells and recreate our body. It's as simple as that. And I don't think enough doctors or enough people who are doing podcasts are actually explaining this to people. They don't understand. They run off to get cleanses, they get parasite cleanses. They don't understand what damage they're doing by just listening to someone giving a prescription for a quick fix. And as a result, I believe watching this for 50 years, I've seen a decline in health, not an increase in health. In fact, our country is in such poor health that aside from, God forbid, a nuclear war, the health crisis in this country will bring us down financially. As a society, we have sick children, we have sick people, we're not able to reproduce, and we're in big trouble.
We are in big trouble. For those of our listeners who have to be on antibiotics, what can you share? Again, back to the antibiotic and probiotic. What can you share that could be beneficial for them to keep their microbiome balanced?
Right. So for those of you who need to take an antibiotic, and I said you do it cautiously, after each dose, 2 hours after each dose, you take a good probiotic like the Healthy Trinity. And why are you taking that? Most doctors will say, well, they will be killed. Well, some will and some won't. But the problem is that in the microbial world, a void is not tolerated. So if you have an empty space on your intestinal wall while you're taking all the antibiotics to kill the bad guys, you're also displacing the good guys. So what I tell people, you have to keep those parking spaces on the intestinal wall taken while you're undergoing the antibiotic therapy. So once you finish your antibiotic therapy, and by the way, I want to caution everybody, do not quit any antibiotic therapy in the middle or before you're finished. Why? Because that will allow those resistant microbes to really thrive. That's like a killer. You should never do that. But what you should do is take our probiotics 2 hours after each antibiotic. When you finish the dose, then for a week or more, take double the dose of the Healthy Trinity or Healthy Start System to make sure that you've replanted your microbiome garden. That's just like gardening. Now you've, gotten rid of the bad stuff on your intestinal lining. Now make sure that mostly the good guys are taking over those parking spaces to protect the wall so you don't get into a leaky gut situation.
What a great visual there as well. And for our audience, this happens to our man and women's best friends, our pets as well. And so I know, Natasha, you have a couple of products for animals, canine Dophilus as well as feline Dophilus,
right?
Which is the same type of thing for your pets that may be on antibiotics. And that's the first I've heard. Continue, if you are on antibiotics, continue it to the end of, I guess, of the cycle, and then but while doing that, you can incorporate probiotics at the same time. Is that correct?
That's right, but it's got to be 2 hours apart. And by the way, as much as I love herbs and strongly believe in their use, I caution people: antimicrobial herbs used on a daily basis is not a good thing. Antimicrobial herbs should be used when you need them, not on an everyday basis, because they will disrupt the microbiome. So whether you're taking an antibiotic, an antimicrobial herb, or you're taking natural garlic preparation, anything that's natural, that's antimicrobial, 2 hours after that, you need to take a great probiotic like the Healthy Trinity or the Healthy Start system. If you don't do that, you have a very dynamic system. If you think of 1,000 cars trying to park in very few parking spaces, that's what you have on your intestinal wall. You want to make sure that that intestinal wall is covered mostly by good guys, and those good guys have to be the ones that have evolved with us, not just something that somebody throws on a label. It's very distracting, and we're not making progress because there's so much confusion, there's so much misinformation that people are not able to get better and keep themselves better.
Before we sign off here, I'm someone who loves to cook, and I use garlic every day. And you just mentioned antimicrobial herbs. Can you share some other examples of some of those herbs?
Yeah, golden seal. Golden seal is a famous, herb. It has great antimicrobial properties, but if you take a golden seal or any other herb that's listed as antimicrobial, you need to keep replenishing. It's just like a garden. If you weed out the garden, but you don't do it by hand, you use something chemical, you got to, replenish that soil. It's the same thing with your body, because what happens, these bacteria, to protect themselves, if you're not smart, will start building these biofilms. And I'll answer that question on our IG Live, where we have a biofilm answer. But look, the symptoms that show up when you've abused antibiotics are the same as we have, like gas, bloating, constipation, sleep disturbance, diarrhea, heartburn, nausea, autoimmune conditions, unintentional weight gain, sleep disturbances, constant fatigue. When your body's not able to turn the food into energy, that's constant fatigue. Skin irritation, the skin's talking to you saying, hey, we got a problem down here. Autoimmune conditions, food intolerances, food allergies, all of those are connected to a dysfunctional microbiome. And that's usually a result of using antibiotics indiscriminately, and then coupled with stress and our mental attitude, completely undermines the health of our microbiome and our microbiota.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for that visual as well. And Natasha, always a wealth of information. And for our audience, I hope this session also helps with what you may or may not be going through. But we are here. Please continue supporting this channel, as well as giving us thumbs up, as well as comments and other topics you'd like us to cover. So I'm your host, John Malanca, with my co-host, Natasha Trenev, and we'll see you next week on another episode. Have a great day. Good night, Natasha.